Queen Zarathek stood in the empty room where her 3 daughters should have been sleeping. The massive stone walls of the palace seemed to mock her with their silence. She was 7 feet tall, with natural armor plates covering her dark blue skin, and her golden eyes burned with worry that she had never felt before. Princess Kiva was 12 years old, Princess Nala was 10, and Princess Rin was only 8. All 3 were trained warriors despite their young age. The Valdorian people had always raised their children to be strong fighters from the moment they could walk. Her daughters could break steel with their bare hands and move faster than most adult humans. They were fierce just like their mother and all their ancestors. But now they were gone. "My queen," General Thorn entered the room. He was an old warrior with scars covering his arms. "We have searched every corner of the palace. There are no signs of a struggle. No broken walls, no weapons left behind, nothing." Zarathek turned to face him. Her anger was like a storm ready to break. How can 3 children simply vanish from the most protected place in our empire? We have guards at every door. We have sensors watching every hall. Our defense systems can stop an entire army. That is what troubles me, my queen. No enemy could have entered without setting off alarms. No ship could have landed without our permission. It makes no sense. The queen walked to the large window that showed the purple sky of Zerion Prime. 3 moons hung in the darkness like watching eyes. She had ruled this moon and commanded respect from a dozen star systems. Other alien races feared the Valdorians. They knew that her people were born warriors who never backed down from a fight. "Send word to all our colonies," she said. "Search every ship that has left this system in the past week. Question every trader, every diplomat, every visitor who has been near our space." General Thorn bowed his head. "It will be done, my queen." Days passed. The search parties found nothing. No trace of the princesses anywhere in Valdorian space. No ransom demands came from enemies. No hints of where they might have gone. It was as if they had simply disappeared into empty space. Zarathek barely slept. She barely ate. Her advisors whispered that she was becoming dangerous to be around. Any guard who brought bad news faced her rage. She had thrown furniture across rooms and left claw marks in metal walls. "My queen," said Advisor Keth, an old female who had served the royal family for decades. "Perhaps we should consider asking for help from other species." "Help?" Zarathek's voice was like thunder. "We do not need help from weaklings. We are Valdorians. We solve our own problems." "But my queen, we have searched for 2 weeks with no results. The Galactic Council has resources we do not have. They have contacts with species we rarely speak. Maybe someone has seen something we missed." Zarathek was quiet for a long moment. The idea of asking for help made her sick. Valdorians were proud. They were strong. They did not beg others for assistance. But her daughters were more important than pride. "Who would you suggest?" she asked finally. "The humans, my queen." "Humans?" Zarathek almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Those small, weak creatures who joined the Galactic Council only 5 years ago. They have no strength, no armor, no natural weapons. What could they possibly do that we cannot? They think differently than we do, my queen. I have heard stories about how they solve problems. They do not always use force, they use other methods. Strange methods that work when strength fails." Zarathek had met humans before at council meetings. They were tiny compared to Valdorians. Their skin looked soft and breakable. They seemed to talk more than they fought. She had never understood why other species took them seriously. But she had also heard whispers that humans had solved problems that had puzzled much stronger races. "Very well," she said. "Contact their fleet. Tell them we request their assistance in finding our children." The words tasted bitter in her mouth, but she would swallow any amount of pride to get her daughters back. 3 days later, a human ship arrived at Zerion Prime. It was smaller than Valdorian warships, painted white and blue instead of the black and red that warriors preferred. The name on its side read Aurora in simple letters. The ship's captain was a human male named Jake Morrison. He was tall for his species, but still much shorter than any Valdorian. His hair was brown and his eyes were green. He wore a simple uniform without armor or weapons that she could see. He looked weak and soft to her eyes, but when he spoke, his voice was calm and steady. "Your Majesty, I'm sorry about your daughters. We'll do everything we can to find them and bring them home safely." He brought 3 other humans with him. Lisa Chang was their pilot, a small female with quick eyes who seemed to notice everything around her. Carlos Rivera was their engineer, a cheerful male who smiled even in the serious situation. Dr. Amanda Foster was their medical officer, a quiet female who carried herself like she had seen many difficult things. "What do you need from us?" Zarathek asked. "First, we need to see where the princesses lived. We want to understand their daily routine. Then we need to talk to everyone who knew them. Guards, teachers, servants, friends. We need to learn about who your daughters really were, not just what they were trained to be." Zarathek frowned. "I do not understand. They are warriors. That is all you need to know." Jake looked at her with eyes that seemed older than his young face. "Your Majesty, in my experience, children are always more than what their parents expect them to be. If we're going to find them, we need to understand what they wanted, not just what they were supposed to want." The Queen felt something cold move through her chest. She had never thought about what her daughters wanted. She had only thought about what they needed to learn to be strong leaders, what they needed to know to survive in a dangerous galaxy, what they needed to do to honor their family and their people. For the first time since they disappeared, she wondered if maybe she had missed something important about the 3 most precious things in her life. Jake Morrison walked through the princesses' rooms with his team. The walls were made of dark stone and weapons hung everywhere like decorations. Training swords, practice shields, and armor pieces built for children filled the space. There were no toys, no books, no pictures of happy things. Everything was designed to make young warriors. "This doesn't look like children's rooms," Lisa whispered to Carlos. "It looks like a military training center." Dr. Amanda Foster knelt beside one of the beds. It was hard stone covered with thin fabric. No pillows, no soft blankets, nothing. "Comfortable. They slept on this? These are just children." Queen Zarathek heard the comment. Her golden eyes flashed with anger. "Soft beds make soft warriors. My daughters needed to be strong." Jake ran his hand along the wall near Princess Kiva's bed. His fingers found small scratches in the stone. They were too small and regular to be accidental. "Dr. Foster, can you look at this?" Amanda came over with a small light. The scratches formed tiny pictures. Simple drawings of flowers, stars, and what looked like small animals. They were carved very lightly into the stone, almost hidden. "She drew these in secret," Amanda said, softly. "Look how careful she was to hide them." "Impossible," General Thorne said. "Princess Kiva spent all her time training. She had no interest in such foolish things." Jake moved to Princess Nala's area. Behind her weapon rack, he found more, hidden drawings. These showed what looked like families holding hands under bright suns. Princess Rin's corner had the most secret art. Tiny figures that looked happy dancing and playing games. "Your daughters were artists," Jake told the Queen. "They hid it, but they loved to draw peaceful, happy things." Zarathek stared at the hidden pictures. She had never seen them before. This is not possible. They were trained from birth to think only of strength and honor. "Children find ways to be children," Dr. Foster said gently, "even when the world tries to stop them." Carlos was examining the room's security systems. The technology was advanced, with sensors that could detect the smallest movement. "These systems are impressive. Nothing could get in or out without triggering alarms." "That's what we thought," General Thorne said, "but somehow they vanished." "Actually," Carlos said, studying his readings, "the systems weren't broken from outside. They were turned off from inside. Someone who knew the codes shut them down." Lisa was checking the computer records of the palace. "I'm seeing something strange here. For the past 2 months, someone accessed the library databases every night after midnight. They were reading about other planets, other cultures, especially human colonies. My daughters do not read for pleasure," the Queen said firmly. "They study only military tactics and combat techniques. The access codes used were Princess Kiva's, Lisa continued. She was researching farming worlds, peaceful settlements, places where there's no fighting. Jake pieces were falling into place in Jake's mind. Your Majesty, I need to ask you something. Difficult. Were your daughters happy? Happy? Zarathek looked confused. They were being trained to lead our people. Happiness is not important. But did they laugh? Did they play? Did they ever get to just be kids? General Thorne answered. Instead, they were disciplined. They followed orders. They learned their lessons. That is what matters. Dr. Foster found something else. In the corner of Princess Rin's area, hidden under loose stones, was a small collection of items. Smooth rocks, dried flowers, and tiny metal pieces shaped like stars. She was collecting pretty things, hiding them so no one would take them away. She told me she found those during combat training, General Thorne said. I ordered her to throw them away. She said she did. She lied to keep them, Amanda said, because they made her happy. Jake sat down in the center of the room. His team gathered around him. The Valdorians watched with confusion as the humans had what looked like a casual conversation. They planned this for months, Jake said. 3 young girls who were never allowed to be children, never allowed to be soft or gentle or happy. They researched human colonies because they heard we treat children differently. They disabled their own security, Lisa added, which means they knew the systems better than anyone thought. They're much smarter than their training allowed them to show. And they took nothing with them except Princess Rin's hidden treasures, Carlos observed. No weapons, no armor, no valuables, just small things that made them feel happy. They ran away, Dr. Foster concluded. They weren't taken. They left on their own because they were desperate to find a place where they could be children instead of warriors. The room fell silent. Queen Zarathek's face went through many emotions. Anger, confusion, hurt, and something that might have been understanding. You are saying my daughters chose to leave me? She asked quietly. We're saying they were looking for something they couldn't find here, Jake said carefully. That doesn't mean they don't love you. It means they needed something different than what they were getting. But we gave them everything, General Lee. Thorne protested. The best training, the finest weapons, the strongest discipline, we prepared them to rule an empire. You gave them what you thought they needed, Amanda said. But children need more than training. They need love, play, creativity, and the chance to make their own choices sometimes. Zarathek looked at the hidden drawings again. For the first time, she really saw them. Her warrior daughter had carved flowers into stone because flowers were beautiful and she was never allowed to see beautiful things. Her future general had drawn families holding hands because she wanted to feel connection, not just command others. Her youngest had collected tiny treasures because they were pretty and made her smile. Where would they go? She asked. Based on their research, probably to human space, Jake said. They were looking for agricultural colonies, peaceful settlements, places where children can be children. The Outer Rim territories, Lisa added, checking her star charts. There are dozens of small farming worlds out there, quiet places where people go to start over. But they are just children, the Queen said. How would they survive? How would they find food or shelter? The same way they escaped from here, Jake replied. They're much more capable than you think, and much more desperate than you realized. For the first time since becoming queen, Zarathek felt truly afraid. Not afraid of enemies or battles, but afraid that she had failed her children in ways she never understood. She had given them everything she thought they needed to be strong, but she had never asked them what they needed to be happy. Find them, she said to Jake. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Please find my daughters and bring them home. We will, Jake promised. But when we do, you might find they're not exactly the same children who left here. The search took Jake's team through 6 human colonies in the Outer Rim. Each world was peaceful and quiet, filled with farmers and families who had come to the frontier to build simple lives away from the busy centers of human space. None of them had seen 3 alien children. On the 7th world, New Haven, they finally found a lead. The colony administrator, an elderly man named Pete Williams, remembered something unusual. About 3 months ago, old Ben Parker mentioned seeing some strange lights near his farm during a storm, Pete said. Thought it might have been a ship in trouble, but when the weather cleared, there was nothing there. Ben lives way out past the main settlement. Keeps to himself mostly. Jake felt his heart speed up. Can you tell us how to find his farm? Sure, but I should warn you. Ben's not much for visitors. He came here 5 years ago after leaving the military. Doesn't talk much about his past. Just wants to be left alone with his crops and his animals. The Aurora landed near a simple farmhouse, made of local wood and stone. Fields of green plants stretched in all directions under the warm yellow sun. It looked peaceful in a way that Valdorian worlds never did. No weapons, no guards, no walls. Just open space and growing things. Ben Parker came out of his house when he heard the ship land. He was a tall human with brown hair turning gray at the edges. His clothes were simple work gear, and his hands showed the calluses of someone who worked hard every day. But Jake noticed that he moved like a soldier, alert and ready for trouble. You folks lost? Ben asked. His voice was friendly but careful. Mr. Parker, I'm Captain Jake Morrison with the Terran Federation. We're looking for 3 missing children, young aliens who might have passed through this area. Ben's face didn't change, but Jake saw his shoulders tense slightly. Haven't seen any aliens around here. This is a quiet farming world. Dr. Foster stepped forward. Mr. Parker, these children have been missing for weeks. Their mother is desperate to find them. If you've seen anything at all, even something that seemed unimportant, it could help us. Like I said, I haven't seen any alien children. Ben's voice was steady, but Jake heard something underneath it. Not exactly a lie, but not the whole truth either. Lisa was scanning the area with her equipment. Captain, I'm picking up some unusual readings from the barn. Energy signatures that don't match standard farming equipment. Ben moved quickly to block their path to the barn. That's private property. You don't have permission to search it. Mr. Parker, Jake said gently, we're not here to cause trouble. We just want to find 3 scared children and get them home safely to their mother. Their mother, Ben repeated. Tell me about this mother. What kind of person loses track of 3 children? The question surprised Jake. She's a queen, the ruler of a powerful empire. Her people are warriors, and she was raising her daughters to be the same. Warriors. Ben said the word like it tasted bad. How old are these children? 12, 10, and 8 years old. Ben was quiet for a long moment. He looked at the barn, then at Jake's team, then at the peaceful fields around them. Finally, he sighed deeply. Come with me, he said, but move. Slowly, and keep your voices down. And for the love of all that's holy, don't make any sudden movements. He led them to the barn. It was larger than it looked from outside, filled with farming equipment and bales of dried grass. But in the back corner, Jake saw something that made his breath catch. 3 small figures were curled up together on a pile of soft blankets. They looked like tiny versions of Queen Zarathek, with the same blue-gray skin and natural armor plates, but their armor was still growing in, making them look more like children than warriors. Princess Kiva had her arms around her younger sisters, protecting them even in sleep. They looked peaceful, content, safe. They've been here for 3 months, Ben said quietly. Found them sleeping in my barn during the worst storm of the season. They were exhausted, scared, and half-starved. Spoke a language I didn't understand at first. How did you communicate? With them? Amanda asked. Same way I learned to talk to hurt soldiers who spoke different languages. Point to things, draw pictures, be patient, be kind. Ben smiled slightly. They're smart kids, they picked up basic English pretty fast. But why didn't you report finding them? Jake asked. Ben's face grew hard. Because I've seen what war does to children. I've held too many young soldiers who were broken by fighting they were too young for. When I saw these 3, I saw the same thing. They weren't running towards something. They were running away from being turned into weapons. Princess Rin stirred in her sleep and made a soft sound. It was happy and peaceful, not the sound of a trained warrior. Ben immediately moved closer, and gently touched her shoulder, whispering something in her ear. She settled back into deep sleep. She has nightmares sometimes, Ben explained, about combat training, about being hit for showing weakness, about being told she wasn't strong enough. His voice grew angry. She's 8 years old, 8, and someone convinced her that she wasn't good enough because she liked flowers instead of swords. Jake felt a chill run through him. How much have they told you about their lives? Enough. Ben turned to face the team. Kiva can break steel bars with her hands, but she cries when she sees injured animals. Nala is faster than anything I've ever seen move, but she spends hours reading children's books about friendship. Rin is stronger than most adult humans, but she picks flowers and makes little gardens everywhere she goes. They're still Valdorian princesses, Jake said. Their mother loves them. Does she? Ben asked. Because loving someone and training them to be a perfect weapon aren't the same thing. These kids have never had a childhood, never played games just for fun, never been allowed to be gentle or creative or happy without being punished for it. Dr. Foster was studying the sleeping children with professional eyes. They look healthy, well-fed, content. They help me with the farm work, Ben said. They're learning to read earth books, they play with the animals. Kiva is teaching herself to paint. Nala writes little stories. Rin grows flowers that she gives to anyone who looks sad. He paused. They're still strong, still fast, still tough. But now they're also happy. But they can't stay here forever, Jake said gently. Their mother is searching everywhere for them. She's desperate. Is she desperate to find them, or desperate to get her weapons back? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Jake found he didn't have a good answer. Princess Kiva opened her eyes. They were the same golden color as her mother's, but instead of anger or determination, they showed curiosity and caution. She looked at Jake's team, then at Ben. Are they here to take us back? She asked Ben in English. Her voice was soft and scared. I don't know, sweetheart, Ben said honestly. That depends on them. Kiva sat up carefully, keeping her sisters behind her. Even here, even safe, she was still protecting them. But she wasn't doing it with threats or violence, she was doing it with love. We don't want to go back, she said to Jake. We want to stay here with Ben. He teaches us things our tutors never did. He shows us how to be gentle and strong at the same time. Queen Zarathek arrived at New Haven 3 days later with a full battle fleet. 12 massive Valdorian warships hung in space above the peaceful farming world like dark storm clouds. The sight made every human on the planet nervous. Ben Parker stood in his front yard, watching the Queen's shuttle land near his farmhouse. The 3 princesses stayed close to his sides, but they weren't hiding. Princess Kiva held his left hand, Princess Nala held his right, and Princess Rin stayed pressed against his leg. The shuttle door opened and Queen Zarathek stepped out. She was even more impressive in person than Jake remembered. 7 feet of armored muscle and royal fury. General Thorne followed her, along with a dozen royal guards who looked like they could fight an entire army. But when Zarathek saw her daughters, everything changed. Her angry expression melted into relief and joy and something that looked like pain all mixed together. She took 3 quick steps toward them, then stopped. The girls didn't run to her. They stayed close to Ben, watching their mother with careful eyes. Kiva, Nala, Rin. The Queen's voice was soft, almost broken. My daughters, I have searched everywhere for you. Hello, Mother, Princess Kiva said politely. But she didn't move away from Ben. Zarathek looked at the human farmer who stood between her and her children. He was so much smaller than her, so weak-looking. But he didn't step back or show fear, even with a dozen Valdorian warriors staring at him. You are Ben Parker, she said. Yes, Your Majesty. And you're their mother. He squeezed Kiva's hand gently. They've told me a lot about you. Have they? The Queen's golden eyes studied his face. And what did they tell you? That you're strong. That you're busy ruling an empire. That you want them to be warriors like you. Ben paused. And that they love you very much, even though they were afraid you wouldn't love them if they weren't perfect soldiers. The words hit Zarathek like a physical blow. Of course I love them. They are my children. I know you do, Ben said gently. But maybe you love them in the only way you know how, the way your parents loved you, the way your people have always loved their children. General Thorne stepped forward. Human, you will return the princesses immediately. You have no right to keep them here. I'm not keeping them anywhere, Ben replied calmly. They're free to go whenever they want, but they're also free to stay if they choose. They are children, Thorne said angrily. They cannot make such decisions. Princess Nala spoke up. We're old enough to know what makes us happy and what makes us scared. Her voice was small but determined. Living here makes us happy. Going back to combat training every day makes us scared. Queen Zarathek stared at her middle daughter. You were never afraid of training before? Yes, we were, Princess Rin said softly. We were afraid all the time, afraid of disappointing you, afraid of not being strong enough, afraid of getting hurt, afraid of hurting others, but we couldn't tell you because being afraid is weakness. And warriors cannot be weak, Kiva added. So we pretended we weren't afraid. We pretended we liked fighting. We pretended we didn't want to draw pictures or read stories or play with soft toys. Zarathek felt something breaking inside her chest. But you are strong. You are fierce. You are my daughters. We are still your daughters, Kiva said, and we are still strong. But Ben taught us that being strong doesn't mean we can't also be kind, or creative, or gentle sometimes. Dr. Foster stepped closer to the Queen. Your Majesty, may I show you something? She held up a tablet with pictures on it. These are drawings your daughters made while they've been here. The images showed the farm, the animals, Ben working in the fields, but they also showed the three sisters practicing their combat skills together, sparring and training. They were keeping up their Valdorian abilities, but they were doing it with smiles on their faces instead of grim determination. They haven't stopped being warriors, Amanda explained. They've just learned that warriors can have other parts to their lives, too. Show her the garden, Ben said to Princess Rin. The youngest princess took her mother's huge hand in her tiny one. Come see, Mother. I grew flowers that look like the ones from our home world. Ben helped me find the right soil. She led the confused Queen around to the back of the farmhouse. There, in neat rows, were plants that looked like they belonged. On Zerion Prime, tough spiky flowers in shades of purple and gold, but mixed among them were earth flowers, soft and delicate and beautiful. I made them grow together, Rin explained proudly. The strong ones protect the soft ones, and the soft ones make the strong ones look pretty. Zarathek knelt down to be closer to her youngest daughter's level. You did this yourself? Ben taught me how. He said gardens are like families. Different things can grow together if you take care of them right. The Queen looked up at Ben Parker, this small, weak human who had somehow done what her entire empire could not do. He had made her daughters happy. What do you want from me? She asked him. Nothing for myself, Your Majesty. I just want what's best for these girls. And you think keeping them here is what's best? Ben was quiet for a moment. I think giving them choices is what's best. Maybe they spend part of the year here learning to be children, and part of the year with you learning to be leaders. Maybe being a good queen means understanding that strength comes in many forms. General Thorne made an angry sound. This is ridiculous. We cannot negotiate with a human farmer about royal daughters. But Queen Zarathek held up her hand to silence him. She looked at each of her daughters carefully, really looked at them, maybe for the first time in their lives. Kiva stood straighter and seemed more confident than she had ever been at home. Nala was smiling, something she rarely did in the palace. Rin was holding a flower and looked genuinely happy. They were still strong, still fast, still tough, but they were also something they had never been before. They were children who felt safe enough to be themselves. You would let them come back to me sometimes? Zarathek asked Ben. If they want to. And if you promise not to punish them for the things they've learned here, for wanting beauty and kindness along with strength. The queen was silent for a long time. Her advisors waited. Her guards waited. Her daughters waited. The future of two species seemed to hang in the balance of whatever she decided next. Finally, she spoke. I need time to think about this. This is not how I expected things to be. That's okay, Mother, Princess Kiva said. Ben taught us that sometimes the best things happen when they're not what you expected. The attack came at dawn 3 days later. Ben was feeding the chickens when his motion sensors started screaming warnings. Princess Kiva was helping him gather eggs, Princess Nala was reading under her favorite tree, and Princess Rin was watering her flower garden. Get inside, Ben told them quickly. Now. But it was too late. 5 dark ships dropped out of the sky like falling stones. They were different from Valdorian vessels or human ships. These were rough and ugly, covered in weapons and armor. Skorthak raider ships. The ships landed hard in Ben's fields, crushing his crops. Dozens of aliens poured out of them. Skorthaks looked like walking nightmares. 8 feet tall, covered in gray scales, with 4 arms ending in sharp claws. They were known across the galaxy as slavers and killers who took what they wanted and destroyed the rest. Surrender the Valdorian younglings, the lead Skorthak called out in broken English. They will bring good price from enemies of their queen. Ben stepped in front of the 3 princesses. His old military training kicked in and he moved like the soldier he used to be. Over my dead body. That can be arranged, the Skorthak leader hissed. The battle erupted in Ben's front yard. The Valdorian guards who had been camping nearby came running, their weapons blazing. Queen Zarathek burst out of her temporary shelter, moving faster than anything that large should be able to move. But the Skorthaks had planned this attack well. They had brought overwhelming numbers and heavy weapons. The Valdorian warriors were brave and strong, but they were outnumbered 3 to 1. Ben grabbed an old rifle from inside his house. It was ancient compared to alien weapons, but he knew how to use it. He started picking off Skorthaks who got too close to the girls. Stay behind me, he shouted to the princesses. But Princess Kiva had other ideas. No, Ben, we protect you now. She moved like liquid lightning, faster than any human could follow. Her small fists hit with the force of hammers, sending Skorthaks flying through the air. Princess Nala flanked to the left, using speed and intelligence to strike at weak points in the enemy's formation. Even little Princess Rin fought, though. She stayed close to Ben to guard his back. The 3 sisters moved together like they had been planning this their whole lives. But they weren't fighting like the grim warriors their mother had tried to train. They were protecting someone they loved, and that made them fierce in a completely different way. Jake Morrison and his crew arrived in the Aurora just as the battle reached its peak. The human ship's weapons weren't as powerful as Valdorian guns, but Lisa Chang was a better pilot than anyone expected. She used speed and cleverness to hit the Skorthak ships where they were vulnerable. Take out their engines, Jake ordered. Don't let any of them escape to report back to their fleet. The battle became a perfect example of what Ben had been trying, to teach the princesses. The Valdorians fought with honor and strength, meeting their enemies head-on with courage and skill. The humans used tactics and teamwork, striking from unexpected angles and supporting each other. But the princesses fought with both approaches combined. They had their mother's strength and their people's courage. But they also had learned strategy and cooperation from Ben and the humans. They covered each other's weaknesses and supported their allies. Most importantly, they weren't fighting because they were ordered to or because it was expected. They were fighting to protect their family. Ben had become part of their family and they would not let anyone hurt him. Queen Zarathek saw her daughters in combat for the first time since they had returned. What she saw amazed her. They were better fighters than they had ever been in training. Not because they were angrier or more violent, but because they had something to fight for beyond duty. Princess Rin, the smallest and youngest, threw herself at a Skorthak who was about to attack Ben from behind. She hit the alien warrior with everything she had, sending him crashing into his own ship. That's my friend, she told the unconscious Skorthak firmly. Nobody hurts my friend. The battle ended when General Thorn and Queen Zarathek cornered the Skorthak leader. The alien was wounded and surrounded, his followers either dead or unconscious. Why? Did you come here? Zarathek demanded. Who sent you? Enemies of Valdorians, the Skorthak spat. Wanted royal children for leverage against your empire. But we take them for ourselves instead. Sell them to highest bidder. You failed, Thorn said simply, and ended the conversation with his sword. In the aftermath, everyone gathered in Ben's damaged front yard. The farmhouse had scorch marks on its walls and the fields were torn up, but everyone was alive. Ben was bandaging a cut on Princess Kiva's arm when Queen Zarathek approached them. The huge alien queen knelt down so she could look her daughters in the eyes. I saw how you fought today, she said quietly. You were magnificent, but not because you were following orders or trying to prove your strength. You fought that way because you were protecting someone you love. Ben is our family now too, Princess Nala said. We have two families, our Valdorian family and our human family. Zarathek looked at the farmer who was carefully cleaning her daughter's wound. This weak little human had nearly died protecting her children. Her own royal guards hadn't fought harder than he had. Ben Parker, she said formally, you have protected my daughters with your life. In Valdorian tradition, this makes you part of our family. If you will accept it, I name you honorary uncle to the royal princesses and friend to the Valdorian Empire. Ben looked up from his work, surprised. Your Majesty, I'm honored. But I'm just a farmer. You are the person who taught my daughters that they could be strong and gentle at the same time. That they could be warriors and children both. That they could choose love as well as duty. She paused. You gave them something I didn't know. How to give them. You gave them the freedom to be themselves. Princess Rin climbed into Ben's lap, careful of his injuries. Does this mean we can visit both homes? Spend time learning to be princesses and time learning to be kids? If that's what you want, her mother said. And if Ben agrees to be your guardian when you're here. It's what we want, all three sisters said together. Ben smiled, the first real smile anyone had seen from him in years. I think I'd like that very much. 2 months later, Jake Morrison visited New Haven again. He found Ben working in his rebuilt fields with 3 very unusual assistants. The princesses had grown taller and stronger, but they still helped with the farming. They still played with the animals. They still made art and read books and grew flowers. But now they also practiced combat skills every morning with holographic opponents sent by their mother. They studied galactic politics and military strategy in the afternoons. They were learning to be both the children they wanted to be and the leaders they would need to become. Jake found them all taking an afternoon nap in the shade of the big tree behind the house. Ben was propped against the trunk with Princess Kiva sleeping against his shoulder. Princess Nala curled up on the grass beside him, and little Princess Rin fast asleep on his chest, with her arms wrapped around him. They looked peaceful, content, safe. Most importantly, they looked happy. Queen Zarathek had learned that sometimes the strongest thing a parent can do is let their children choose their own path. Ben had learned that family comes in many forms and love can cross any distance between species. And 3 alien princesses had learned the most important lesson of all. They could be exactly who they were meant to be, fierce and gentle, strong and kind warriors and children, all at the same time. In the end, that was the most human thing about them.